Welcome back, and hello if you're new. So with Halloween just around the corner, it seems appropriate that the dead would rise once more. Old Nick, Joachim, Blackheim, Lord Seth and Axe all return for another slab of morbidity, adding more strings to their ever-increasing bow on the arrow of Satan is drawn. On the arrow of Satan is drawn, what is particularly noticeable, and what has always been a hallmark of Bloodbath, is that the band have really upped the ante when it comes to songwriting, and just transition straight into another really easily. The ending of Wayward Samaritan is a particular example where the band do that classic thing where they're playing a really fast riff before slowing it right down, right until it comes to this crawling end. But then there's also a moment where, you know, a brilliant riff will appear and then they'll disappear in this shroud of blasts, for example on Morbid Antichrist. But it makes those riffs kind of more of those, whoa, what was that kind of moment. Bloodbath have always been at their best when they really let the evil flow. And the arrow of Satan is drawn has evil positively oozing out of it. From the moment that Fleischmann erupts, you can hear this kind of like ominous, eerie sound. Not to mention that the track finishes with a woman who sounds like really possessed. These are kind of the sections where the atmosphere of that evil is really tied together. The band might have one particular riff, but then it's enhanced to no end with these really kind of slow drawl leads. I also personally think that Old Nick has the perfect pipes to fit this band. And, you know, it sounds like his mouth has been literally a rotting ashtray. It matches the chainsaw guitar sound perfectly, but also his enunciation is really clear on the record, which is something incredibly important. And there's always a final section of the track that leaves you with your skin positively crawling. But for me, one of the most spooky, I guess, was Warhead Ritual, which essentially is Bloodbath's take on Nuclear Holocaust. I feel that the band have really favoured groove on this album over all-out sonic depravity, which we did kind of see a lot more on Grand Morbid Funeral. Riffs aren't quite as fast and vicious this time round, and instead there's more focus on that doom-laden, really kind of weighty riff. You know, Single Bloodicide is a perfect example showcasing Bloodbath's slower footsteps, but when they can be just as heavy. One of the things I loved about Grand Morbid Funeral was that the fact that the band understood dynamics absolutely brilliantly. And I can happily say that on the arrow of Satan is drawn, these dynamics are kind of almost upped even more, creating smooth and effective transitions that make everything seem so fluid. Perfect example is the transition between the first verse and the second verse section of Bloodicide. But it's that transition that makes it such a brilliant piece of songwriting. It's then moved into probably the most inspired use of guest vocals ever, ending up with a trio of UK death metal champions. We've got Jeff Walker of Carcass, Carl Willits of Bolt Thrower and Memoriam, and John Walker of Cancer. And rather than, you know, just use them in a kind of throwaway way, instead the band have again implemented this idea of dynamics and have them almost play off against each other on the track, with Old Nick as well, and it creates a fantastic. However, what I think the arrow of Satan is drawn has in abundance is a real sense of variety. For example, the introduction of Wayward Samaritan has almost like rock and roll style feel to it before the HM2 pedal worship comes in. There was one section on Deader where I did think it went a little bit close to what we heard on Grand Morbid Funeral, but in terms of songwriting, there were just I think that was the only kind of real dip where I was like, oh, it sounds like they've maybe recycled that riff. However, following that, there's a fantastic diminished number, which is possibly the best title on the album, March of the Crucifiers. You know, it has a slower sense to it, but again, it's these brooding riffs. On Morbid Antichrist, Bloodbath are experimenting with different ideas and bring almost kind of like a choral section in, but only for a second, you know, I'm not talking they go all behemoth here. Grand finale track, which is Chainsaw Lullaby, which has a definite punk feel to it, and almost a modern take on black metal as well. I have to say though, the ending of Chainsaw Lullaby is absolutely killer, like, no pun intended. I mean, it sounds like a B-movie, but in the best kind of way possible, really. And it really does fit the whole idea of Bloodbath. There's also no shortage of groove on the record. For example, on Warhead Ritual, they make fantastic use of those bends. And on Only the Dead Survive, there's an imperial groove and really has this amazing section at the end where there's this spoken word section where they mention that the arrow of Satan is drawn, and then it moves into this imperial march type thing, and it really does sound as though like Satan is literally looking at you when you're listening to this track. The Arrow of Satan is Drawn is a record that revels in filth, bathes in putridity, and lives in this grim and dark necrosphere that we all seem to fear. Brilliant songwriting and clever dynamics ensure that this is not a rehash of Grand Morbid Funeral, but very much their own new chapter. This is depraved, deviant and macabre death metal at its finest, and it's just in time for Halloween. And for that reason, I'm going to give the record a 4 out of 5 skulls. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button. Also drop a comment, let me know what you thought of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for another review. Alright, take care.